As expected of Li Manor, their foundations run deep. Wang Lin stepped forward, speaking slowly. And you three, one at the 10th layer of the transcendent Heavenly Venerable realm, and two at the 7th layer of Heavenly Supreme. Combined, you might just reach the peak of the 10th layer. But all along my path, I have never killed without cause. If the three of you loose your arrows, I will no longer hold back. Facing the hundreds of people from Li Manor ahead, Wang Lin spoke calmly. His gaze swept across them, pausing briefly in 3 spots. As his words echoed out, 3 figures suddenly manifested from thin air, 3 elderly men. The one directly in front of Wang Lin bore the cultivation of a transcendent, heavenly venerable. This elder's hair was half black and half white. He stared at Wang Lin, his eyes flickering with shock and hesitation, as though he had guessed Wang Lin's identity, yet was not certain. I have no desire to become enemies with Li Manor. After all, Li Guang's relics once saved me more than once. Wang Lin referred to the bow of Li Guang within the abode realm, which had helped him escape crisis time and again. So then, you who refuse to show yourself, won't you come out and face me? Wang Lin suddenly lifted his head. Outsiders could not see his features beneath the hat, but from his eyes burst an overwhelming golden light. That golden brilliance carried an astonishing aura pressure, so potent it even eclipsed the immortal might of the Eastern District. Everyone who beheld it, whether the transcendent heavenly venerable or ordinary clansman, trembled in spirit. When that aura pressure reached its peak, it transformed into sheer suppression. The golden light in Wang Lin's eyes was no longer just light. It was suppression itself, the might of the immortal extreme sword subduing all under heaven. Thunderous echoes rolled as his golden gaze spread out. The bows held by the hundreds of Li clansmen instantly shattered, exploding into countless fragments. Even the 9 heavenly supremes, though their bows endured slightly longer, saw them tremble and crack under his gaze, until they, too, broke apart. As for the 3 strongest elders, 2 of their bows splintered outright. Only the transcendent heavenly venerable's bow remained unbroken, yet even its bowstring disintegrated into drifting ash. And that was not all. Under Wang Lin's low shout and the crushing force of his gaze, none of Li Manor's cultivators dared meet his eyes. Instinctively, they all parted to either side, revealing behind them, in the snowy distance, a tranquil stone chamber. Silence fell. No cries, no shouts. Only the sharp intake of breath from the cultivators whose bows lay in ruins. Their gazes toward Wang Lin brimmed with bottomless fear. The heavenly supremes in particular seemed to recognize something. Their faces turned ashen with horror. White-haired, transcendent, heavenly venerable. At last, a bitter voice drifted out from within the stone chamber. Moments later, its door creaked open, and an old man with a head of white hair emerged. Clad in golden robes, he carried an innate air of authority. Though his expression was tinged with bitterness, he did not shy away from Wang Lin's golden gaze. Wang Lin raised his right hand, removing his bamboo hat. His snow-white hair spilled free, and he looked calmly at the elder. All around, gasps rang out. In that instant, every eye fixed upon him. For over a year, rumors of the white-haired, transcendent, heavenly venerable had swept across the immortal firmament continent like wildfire. Especially here in the ancestral city, his name had thundered in every ear. And Li Manor, being one of the 4 great royal mansions, had long since etched his name deep into the hearts of every member. Never did they expect that here, today, they would behold with their own eyes the most powerful of the transcendent heavenly venerables, the foremost figure beneath the grand heavenly venerables. What chilled them further was the realization that just moments ago, they had dared to raise arms against this man. Give me an explanation. Wang Lin's voice was calm, his gaze fixed on the white-haired elder stepping from the stone chamber. This man, too, was a transcendent heavenly venerable, one of the 13 who had broken through the 11th layer but failed to reach the 12th. Li Manor holds 2 transcendent heavenly venerables and 11 heavenly supremes. Among the 4 great royal mansions of the ancestral city, 3 others stand on par with you. Through Li Manor, Wang Lin gained insight into the strength of the royal mansions. When the ancestral bow's rack rang out with resonance earlier, it meant the bow itself was nearby. Long ago, the bow passed to Li Guang, and when he disappeared, it vanished as well. Upon hearing the Balrak's cry, I dispatched 2 golden venerables to investigate. Their actions were excessive. I asked the white-haired transcendent heavenly venerable not to hold this against us. The ancestral bow is of immense importance to Li Manor. Though the elder tried to meet Wang Lin's eyes, he could feel the suppression within that golden gaze growing ever stronger. Wang Lin remained silent, still staring at him. Under great fame, there are no false heroes. As expected, Wang Lin is known as the #1 person under the great heavenly venerable. At that time, I didn't go to see him. I thought it was just hearsay, and everyone said he had the help of soul armor. But now, facing him, even his gaze put such immense pressure on me. The old ancestor of the Li family, locked in Wang Lin's stare, fell silent for a moment. In the end, this matter was the Li family's own recklessness. Since the white-haired transcendent heavenly venerable has arrived in the imperial city, it is likely that he is here for the enthronement ceremony. How about he rests at our Li Manor? Let our people accompany the transcendent heavenly venerable to the imperial city and escort him along the way. Furthermore, since the transcendent heavenly venerable already possesses the ancestral bow, which could also be of help to you, it wouldn't be considered as anything external. Our Li Manor has the arrow pavilion, where the ancestral arrows left by our forefathers are stored. The transcendent heavenly venerable may freely browse through them. Let us make amends for our recklessness this time. White-haired transcendent heavenly venerable, what do you think? The old man clasped his hands in respect and bowed to Wang Lin. He had humbled himself greatly, but none of the Li family's people felt humiliated. In fact, they felt that it was only fitting. After all, they were facing the #1 person under the great heavenly venerable. A person like this could make even the great heavenly venerable work for him. So what was their Li family? Even though one of the 4 great royal mansions of the ancestral city, with strength surpassing most sects, when compared to Wang Lin, they were still as fragile as paper. If they harmed Wang Lin, the great heavenly venerable would intervene. But if Wang Lin killed them, it was very likely that nothing would come of it. This was the difference in power on the immortal clan continent. Even the Nether Dao Venerable, though rarely leaving the imperial palace, was revered wherever he went. Even the 4 great royal mansions showed great respect when meeting the Nether Dao Venerable, for he was hailed as the future 6th son. Now, Wang Lin had completely suppressed that Nether Dao Venerable. Had the Li family known that the bow was in Wang Lin's possession, they would have pretended to know nothing and never dared to ask for it. Arrow Pavilion? Wang Lin's expression shifted slightly. He had expected the Li family to treat him with respect, but he could clearly tell that the old man, besides being wary of him, was also harboring a desire for the ancestral bow. Unable to take it by force, he chose to treat Wang Lin with respect in the hopes that Wang Lin would return it. This bow. Wang Lin raised his right hand, and with a flash of light, the Li Guang bow appeared in his grasp, exuding an ancient aura. As soon as the bow appeared, the old man's eyes flashed with intense excitement. He had seen this bow once, held by Li Guang, but now it was in the hands of an outsider. The Li family members surrounding them fell silent. Some of them had seen the bow before, while others had never laid eyes on it. This bow still has some use for me. Once I've handled all my matters, I will return it here, Wang Lin said slowly. With a wave of his hand, the bow merged into his body and vanished. The old man of the Li family sighed inwardly, but he wasn't disappointed. After all, Wang Lin had made a promise. Given Wang Lin's status, he didn't have to make such a commitment, so it was clear that he intended to return it. For now, they would treat it as if it were merely borrowed. And most importantly, this bow was found by Wang Lin. How could it be returned immediately just because it belonged to their ancestors so many years ago? The old man thought to himself that if the situation were reversed, he might not even make such a promise. As for staying at the Li Manor, Wang Lin had no objections. Now that he knew Su Ligua was in the ancestral city, Wang Lin wasn't in a hurry to have him recover his memories from his previous life. He stayed within the Li Manor, in the Arrow Pavilion, studying the Li family's archery techniques. Lu Jinbiao was greatly pleased. With Wang Lin as his master, he was treated like a guest of honor in the Li Manor, and he couldn't help but feel joyful. Time passed quickly, and 3 days later, in the afternoon of the 3rd day, the wind and snow still fell. Suddenly, ripples appeared in the air above the Li Manor. As these ripples spread, waves of oppressive pressure emerged. The pressure enveloped the Li Manor, and immediately, the people of the Li family stepped out and looked toward the sky. They saw, within the golden light flashing through the ripples in the sky, a figure walking out. The person wore a green robe and appeared somewhat proud, holding a scroll of cloth, looking down at the people of the Li Manor. Wang Lin, where are you? Come quickly and accept the imperial edict. Read it. Wang Lin's cold voice slowly echoed from deep within the arrow pavilion of the Li Manor. You? The man in the green robe froze. He had come to deliver an imperial edict from the immortal emperor, which meant that the immortal emperor himself had sent him. Yet, Wang Lin didn't even bother to show himself. After a moment of hesitation, the man in the green robe sneered inwardly but dared not show it. He unfolded the scroll in his hand and began to read aloud. Wang Lin didn't listen carefully to the contents, but he did hear that the immortal emperor's edict stated that the enthronement ceremony would be held in 7 days, at dawn, before the Hall of Immortal Paths in the Imperial Palace. Wang Lin had heard about this during his time at the Violet Sun sect. Every transcendent heavenly venerable had to be personally enthroned by the immortal emperor, which was both a formality and a symbol. During the enthronement ceremony, there would always be a stage for challenges. In the past, this was often ignored. After all, a transcendent heavenly venerable was recognized by a fragment of the immortal ancestor heavenly venerable nirvana. Few would dare to seek trouble. After reading out the imperial decree, the man in the blue robe saw that Wang Lin did not appear. His displeasure grew. Leaving the decree behind, he turned and departed in anger. This enthronement ceremony. I wonder what Lian Daoi will do this time. Perhaps there, I might catch sight of the madman. Wang Lin fell silent. Sweeping his divine sense across the eastern district, he found no sign of Lian Daofei. At dawn, when the first ray of sunlight broke through the distant horizon, pushing away the night and illuminating the imperial palace with visible brilliance, figures began to gather before the great palace hall. Esteemed cultivators of the immortal clan from the ancestral city, along with high-ranking officials of the imperial city, arrived one after another. The enthronement of the white-haired transcendent heavenly venerable had, within just 7 days, stirred a storm across the ancestral city. The title, white-haired transcendent heavenly venerable, had spread like wildfire. Within a year, almost everyone qualified to know of it had heard the name. Countless rumors only heightened its prestige. On this day of enthronement, all the major families of the ancestral city, having received approval from the immortal emperor, arrived in unison before the Hall of Immortal Paths, gathering upon the vast square. Sunlight poured down, revealing a sea of cultivators. Tens of thousands filled the square, most with extraordinary cultivation. Among them were even heavenly supreme cultivators. There were also a few transcendent heavenly venerables. Even here within the imperial palace, they still commanded deep respect from those around them. That morning, the teleportation formations leading into the imperial palace were more active than on any other day. Under the sun's glow, light from the arrays flashed endlessly as cultivators stepped out, coming to witness the ceremony. Passing through the 9 gates, they made their way swiftly toward the square before the Hall of Immortal Paths. The number of cultivators grew, yet the square remained orderly. They stood in specific formations, leaving 3 vast empty spaces, each encircled for 100 feet, where none dared step. These were reserved for 3 of the 4 great royal mansions. Alongside the tens of thousands gathered, 2 formations of black armor imperial guards stood guard before the Hall of Immortal Paths. These soldiers belonged solely to the imperial clan, loyal only to the immortal emperor. Every one of them possessed formidable cultivation. Their number, 100,000, was fixed. Though few knew the details, it was whispered that through sacrificing their lives, they could unleash unimaginable destructive force. Now, arrayed in 2 long lines like black dragons cutting across the square, they emanated a chilling aura, thick with murderous intent. These 2 formations seemed to cleave the square in half, stretching all the way beyond the 9 gates. Outside the square, the 9 gates themselves loomed large. Each gate, a massive black stone structure spanning 10,000 feet apart, radiated authority and bloodlust. At the last gate, teleportation light flared, and members of the Li clan appeared one after another. Circumventing the 9 gates, they approached the square with solemn reverence. The time has come. Seal the 9 gates. From within the Hall of Immortal Paths, an old man in green robes walked slowly out. His appearance was ordinary, but his eyes gleamed with sharp brilliance. He swept his gaze across the square and spoke in a calm, yet commanding tone. At his words, the tens of thousands of cultivators present drew in deep breaths, focusing their attention upon the 9 gates. Then came a thunderous roar, the united shout of the 100,000 black armor imperial guards. Their voices merged like the bellow of the earth itself, shaking heaven and earth. The 9 gates suddenly flared with eerie black light. As the radiance deepened, the beams connected, forming a straight path of darkness across the square before the Hall of Immortal Paths. This path, woven of shadowy brilliance and flanked by the bodies of the 100,000 black armor imperial guards, was breathtaking in its solemnity. Tens of thousands of cultivators held their breath, their eyes fixed upon this blacklit passage as well as the teleportation glow at the first gate. Amid the flickering light, a young man in white stepped forth, his long white hair flowing, his expression calm. It was Wang Lin. With hands clasped behind his back, he stood still. The morning wind lifted his robe and hair, lending him an ethereal grace, as though he might drift away with the breeze. From afar, he still looked like a young man. Yet, at the corners of his eyes, faint crow's feet revealed the weight of years. Though his face remained youthful, those lines were etched not by time alone, but by weariness of the heart and a path walked without regret. His gaze pierced through the black passage formed by the 9 gates ahead, falling upon the vast crowd of tens of thousands in the distance. Beyond them, towering above like the descent of heavenly might, stood a colossal palace. Behind that palace, Wang Lin could faintly make out countless other grand halls stretching endlessly, forming the magnificent imperial palace of the immortal emperor upon the immortal clan continent. This palace, it was enormous, so vast that Wang Lin's eyes could not find its end. Yet he could sense an unimaginable ceiling restriction enveloping the area. Though dormant for now, once unleashed, its power would shake the heavens. So this is the imperial palace of the immortal clan. Wang Lin's gaze locked onto a faintly visible stone statue deep within the distant palace, blurred by sheer distance. The statue stood solemnly upon the earth, its eternal gaze seemingly fixed upon the heavens. White-haired, transcendent, heavenly venerable Wang Lin. A cold, commanding voice thundered forth from before the Hall of Immortal Paths, like rolling thunder, jolting Wang Lin from his thoughts and causing his brows to knit. The speaker was an elderly man in blue robes, emerging from the Hall of Immortal Paths. Through the 9 gates, his sharp eyes met Wang Lin's from afar. Wang Lin, every transcendent heavenly venerable, must receive the enthronement personally bestowed by His Majesty, the Immortal Emperor. But before the enthronement ceremony, there is a trial, the 9 gates passage. Only when you cross these gates and stand before me will the ceremony officially begin. When the time comes, His Majesty himself shall confer your title, and the National Master will divine your future fate. Know this, everything you do here, before the Hall of Immortal Paths, will be projected by the palace's formation and manifested across all 72 provinces of the Immortal Clan, shown simultaneously to every sect. His voice was calm, measured. Once his words fell, the blue-robed elder closed his eyes and spoke no more. Yet across the vast square, every cultivator, including those from the 4 great royal mansions, turned their gaze upon Wang Lin beyond the 9 gates. Standing there, Wang Lin remained composed. Regarding this enthronement, he had been informed beforehand by the elder transcendent heavenly venerable of the Li clan. Indeed, every transcendent heavenly venerable was required to walk this 9 gates passage before their title was conferred. But the truth was, this trial was symbolic. After all, anyone who attained the level of transcendent heavenly venerable had already endured the test of the immortal ancestors' fragment during their heavenly venerable ascension, passing through the 10th layer of trials. Thus, the 9 gates served only to display imperial authority. In reality, there was no true obstruction here. One simply had to walk through. Wang Lin's eyes swept across the passage. Within stood two endless rows of black armor cultivators, lined up like twin dragons. Their faces were hidden beneath their helmets, revealing only their cold, emotionless eyes, locked firmly on Wang Lin. Even as the oppressive stares of nearly 100,000 black armor cultivators bore down on him, Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. He had his own principles. If the 9 gates were as harmless as tradition claimed, so be it. But should danger arise within, he would show no mercy. He stepped forward calmly, heading toward the first gate. His pace was steady, unhurried. As he drew close and set foot into the first gate, entering the black passage, a sudden, unified low growl erupted from within. From the bodies of the 100,000 black armor cultivators, an overwhelming, suffocating intent surged outward, murderous, cold, and boundless. Their killing aura merged into a single, invisible tidal wave, crashing violently against Wang Lin. This killing intent was no ordinary pressure. It was the condensed essence of these 100,000 warriors' lifetime of slaughter, bound intricately to their soul armor. At this moment, it became as though Wang Lin was no longer walking through a passage but standing before a heavenly executioner, a god of slaughter born to annihilate all life. Wang Lin's brows furrowed slightly. This trial of the 9 gates isn't about cultivation, it's about killing intent. If that's the case, then I won't be holding back. His eyes flashed coldly. Slowly, he closed them, and in the next instant, they snapped open. At that moment, his thunder avatar erupted from within, unleashing the boundless power of his slaughter thunder. The unleashed force remained confined within 10 feet around his body, but the instant it surged outward, the entire 9 gates passage trembled violently with deafening roars. Then, before the might of Wang Lin's slaughter thunder, the black passage collapsed backward with a resounding boom, forced to retreat 10 feet, as if unable to withstand his killing aura. Without pausing, Wang Lin continued forward step by step. With each pace, his 10-foot domain of slaughter advanced alongside him. The black 9 gates passage rippled violently, its dark radiance recoiling as if swept away. Even the black armor imperial guards within the passage, eyes wide with shock, instinctively retreated before the sheer oppressive might Wang Lin exuded, a killing aura so terrifying it subdued them without a fight. Hundreds of feet, thousands, 10,000. Wang Lin strode forward relentlessly, crossing 10,000 feet in one breath. Behind him, the oppressive black radiance had faded away, leaving only the tranquil stone gate in silence. Ahead of him, the remaining 8 gates formed a black corridor, but under Wang Lin's unstoppable advance, that darkness began to churn, growing increasingly chaotic. Roar! The black armor cultivators, who had been forced back into the black tunnel, let out a third low growl. With this growl, the black light forming the 8 gates tunnel immediately began to expand wildly, as if transforming into a black, fierce tiger, appearing in the imperial palace, right in front of Wang Lin. The phantom tiger roared as it charged directly at Wang Lin. Leave now. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and the totem of the Tianyo soul instantly spread across his entire body. He raised his right hand and punched forward. In that instant, the soul armor vanished from his body. When the punch landed, the heavens and earth trembled. The tiger's illusion shattered with a violent shake. The black tunnel formed by the 8 gates exploded with a loud crash, breaking into pieces. As the black light shattered, 100,000 black armor cultivators spat out blood in unison and were all sent retreating. However, none of them died. Wang Lin's pupils subtly contracted. After observing their armor, he took a step forward, walking through the 100,000 cultivators and passing the remaining 8 gates. His next step landed in front of the Hall of Immortal Paths. He suddenly opened his eyes wide, exposing the terrified, retreating, elderly man in green robes before him. You two step aside. Wang Lin coldly glanced at the elderly man in green. You? The elderly man in green started to speak, but before he could finish, Wang Lin had already moved close to him. He raised his right hand, grabbed the man's robes, and threw him outward. The elderly man's voice turned into a scream, his body seemingly struck by an invisible slap, instantly tumbling backward, and being thrown thousands of miles away. Wang Lin, greetings to the Immortal Emperor. Standing in front of the Hall of Immortal Paths, Wang Lin clasped his fists in salute. After all, this was the Imperial Palace, and the Immortal Emperor was a grand heavenly venerable. Respect was a must. The tens of thousands of cultivators on the plaza, along with the black armor Imperial guards surrounding them, all turned their gazes toward Wang Lin. In the silence, their eyes coldly locked on him. Among the cultivators, those from the 4 great royal mansions looked at Wang Lin differently. Except for those from the Li Mansion, the heads of the other 3 mansions had expressions filled with complexity and helplessness as they gazed at Wang Lin. After Wang Lin's salute, there was a long silence. Finally, a calm voice came from within the Hall of Immortal Paths. You pushed aside my ceremonial official. How shall we proceed with the enthronement ceremony? As the voice spoke, the grand door of the Hall of Immortal Paths silently opened, revealing the interior. In the depths of the hall, there was a mountain-like platform with a massive dragon throne atop it. The throne resembled a true dragon, its head raised in the air, its eyes fierce and full of life, gazing at Wang Lin standing outside the hall. On the throne sat a middle-aged man in imperial robes and a crown. One hand rested on his chin as his body leaned slightly forward. His appearance was dignified and imposing without needing to express anger. He spoke slowly. Standing beside him was a young man in rough, coarse clothing. His pale skin and slender eyes seemed almost otherworldly. He held 2 purple beads, which he rotated in his palm. His mouth always held a slight smile, and his gaze, gentle, briefly met Wang Lin's. That single glance made Wang Lin feel as though his very blood paused for an instant. It was as if, in that moment, he saw his entire life flash before his eyes, causing his mind to waver. His heart shook, but he quickly regained his composure. His pupils contracted as his gaze met the young man in rough clothing. A trace of surprise flashed in the young man's eyes, but he smiled and nodded at Wang Lin. National Master Shang Xiandao. Wang Lin's mind briefly flashed with the name as he realized that this young man, though they had never met, could easily cause him to feel as if he were sinking into reincarnation. This was most likely the National Master. As for the Immortal Emperor sitting on the dragon throne, his appearance was identical to the one Wang Lin had seen during the heavenly venerable ascension. However, now he exuded even more majesty and overwhelming presence. Sitting there, it was as if the entire universe was part of his being. All life beneath his gaze was compelled to kneel before him. Forget it. As the first of the transcendent heavenly venerables, that servant disrespected you. I will not make things difficult for you. Xiandao, you go and preside over this enthronement ceremony. The Immortal Emperor sitting on the dragon throne said slowly. Yes. The young man in rough clothes lowered his body slightly before stepping toward the hall's door. It really is him. Wang Lin's expression tightened. As the young man passed by Wang Lin, he smiled and nodded, before looking out at the tens of thousands of cultivators on the plaza. I shall preside over the enthronement ceremony. Next, let us begin with the blood sacrifice to immortals and open the immortal Tao. National Master Shang Xiandao said, raising his right hand and pointing toward the sky. At his gesture, a red beam of light shot upward, piercing the heavens. Simultaneously, a series of earth-shaking roars echoed throughout the vast imperial palace, coming from 99 different corners. The sound was as if a fierce beast were dying, its scream echoing through the palace. Immediately, 99 blood pillars erupted from the imperial palace, shooting toward the sky. Standing here with Wang Lin, one could clearly see that within these 99 blood pillars, there existed 99 different fierce beast souls. Blood sacrificed to immortals, slaughtering 99 beasts, using their blood to open the ethereal immortal Tao. Wang Lin gazed at the scene with a calm expression. The 99 blood pillars shot into the sky, turning the entire heavens blood red. It faintly seemed as if a mysterious door to another world had opened. Beyond the door was an empty void, with no discernible location. The beast souls within the blood pillars let out silent roars, rushing into the void, and after they vanished, the entire imperial palace was eerily silent. In that instant, it wasn't just the palace that fell into silence. Across the immortal clan continent, The ancestors of various sects, who had seen this scene through the palace's formation, were all staring intently at the sky above the imperial palace. The enfeoffment ceremony of the past generations, apart from breaking through the 9 gates and accepting challenges, also includes a ritual, opening the immortal Tao. Through blood sacrifice, an extraterrestrial spirit is summoned. These spirits can be strong or weak. The immortal emperor would strike them down, spill their blood across the land, and refine their souls into treasures to grant to the enfeoffed one. Wang Lin was very familiar with the ritual of enfeoffment, and there was no surprise in his eyes as he looked up at the sky. I wonder what kind of extraterrestrial spirit this white-haired, transcendent, heavenly Venerable can summon. Years ago, when the Nether Tao Venerable performed the blood sacrifice, he summoned a sword-shaped spirit. After the immortal emperor killed it, it transformed into a sword. It's said to be incredibly powerful. This is all a matter of luck. I wonder what kind of luck Wang Lin has. Around him, the cultivators all raised their eyes with bright gazes, their hearts filled with anticipation and speculation. In the blood-red sky, within the massive vortex, a fierce beast resembling a lion suddenly emerged from the pitch-black void. Its eyes were crimson, and its neck was mangled, with golden blood dripping from its wound as it roared. It seemed to be fleeing through the mysterious void, being forcibly pulled into the vortex that appeared out of nowhere. The beast's body was dragged into the whirlpool and appeared in front of the crowd. Its sudden appearance caused an uproar among the tens of thousands of cultivators in the plaza below. Heavenly Lion Beast. This is the Heavenly Lion Beast from the immortal progenitor's totem. It's said that the Heavenly Lion continent was once transformed by a Heavenly Lion Beast Emperor. This one doesn't have golden fur on its head, so it's not the Beast Emperor, but judging by its appearance, it's an adult battle lion. With each exclamation, the National Master, Shang Xiandao, in his coarse robe, remained calm, as if he had already anticipated the appearance of this Heavenly Lion Beast. The seal left by the immortal progenitor won't allow an overly strong extraterrestrial spirit to enter. This Heavenly Lion Beast, unless it's wounded, would have been difficult to summon. Wang Lin's luck isn't bad, Shang Xiandao murmured, but just then, a deafening roar echoed from the sky. The roar shook the very soul, capable of causing even mortals to collapse. Even cultivators with lower cultivation would tremble as if they had encountered their natural enemy. It was the roar of a lion. The injured Heavenly Lion Beast suddenly shot out of the vortex and appeared on the immortal clan continent. Its eyes showed confusion, clearly unfamiliar with this place. But the confusion quickly turned into terror as it sped backward, seemingly trying to flee from the vortex. At that moment, a cold voice echoed in Wang Lin's ears. A Heavenly Lion Beast, huh? As the voice spoke, the immortal emperor, still sitting in the dragon throne of the Hall of Immortal Paths, remained motionless, one hand propped under his chin. His other hand lifted and waved outward. With this wave, a ball of 5-colored flames materialized and surged out of the hall, carrying an immense heat wave as it shot toward the Heavenly Lion Beast in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the colorless flames transformed into a fiery sea of 5 colors, enveloping the wounded Heavenly Lion Beast. A series of heartbreaking screams echoed throughout the heavens and earth, followed by a violent explosion. Large amounts of scalding blood, as thick as oil, erupted from the sky and rained down on the earth, spreading throughout the entire imperial palace. This scene was witnessed by all the surrounding cultivators. Their minds were shaken, and it wasn't clear who was the first to kneel, but in an instant, all of them were on their knees, bowing toward the Hall of Immortal Paths, Immortal Emperor's divine might. Immortal Emperor's divine might. The sound of tens of thousands of people kneeling together resonated like thunder, echoing throughout the palace. The Immortal Emperor's strength was presented in this awe-inspiring manner before the cultivators of the Immortal Clan. Wang Lin remained silent. He could have killed the wounded Heavenly Lion Beast himself, but he couldn't do it as casually as the Immortal Emperor. It would require him to use his soul armor, and even then, he would need to draw on some of his avatar's power. Great Heavenly Venerable. Wang Lin's expression was calm, revealing not the slightest hint of thought. At that moment, the sea of fire in the sky dispersed. As the flames faded, A single white strand of hair drifted down through the heavens. The moment it appeared, the eyes of State Preceptor Shang Xiandao beside Wang Lin narrowed sharply. It wasn't just him. Within the Immortal Palace, the Immortal Emperor, seated upon the dragon throne, suddenly raised his head. His gaze locked onto the falling white hair, his eyes flickering with surprise. A strand of hair that even my extreme fire path cannot burn. This thing. Wang Lin stood there, his eyes suddenly gleaming with a strange light. The white hair stirred within him a sense of deep familiarity, fleeting as if it were only an illusion. Without the slightest hesitation, his body blurred as he shot straight into the sky. Inside the Hall of Immortal Paths, the Immortal Emperor lifted his right hand, grasping at the void. A colossal five-colored hand of flame materialized out of nothingness, reaching instantly for the drifting strand. Wang Lin's speed could not match the Immortal Emperor's. The fiery hand appeared right beside the falling hair and closed upon it. Yet in that instant, the strand pierced through the flames as if they were nothing, continuing its descent. Everyone around witnessed the scene. Without a moment's pause, Wang Lin appeared beside the strand and snatched it in his grip. My thanks to the Immortal Emperor for bestowing this treasure. Wang Lin turned, bowing deeply toward the Hall of Immortal Paths. The hair in his hand caused him no harm at all. It was soft, ordinary in appearance, its two ends dangling down, fluttering slightly as though stirred by a passing breeze. A silence lingered in the hall for several breaths before the Immortal Emperor's voice echoed out. This is not something I granted you. But since you desire it, then take it. Wang Lin's words of gratitude had been crucial. After all, this was his enthronement ceremony, witnessed by countless sects of the Immortal Clan. Moreover, the heavenly lion beast itself had been summoned here for this event. Even if Wang Lin claimed this strand, none could object. Before the Hall of Immortal Paths, State Preceptor Shang Xiandao gave Wang Lin a profound look and spoke slowly. The blood sacrifice is concluded. Now, the final step of the enthronement ceremony. Wang Lin, everyone present here may challenge you, but only 3 times. After 3 challenges, the Immortal Emperor shall bestow the seal. The instant his words ended, within the crowd below, among the 4 great royal mansions, 3 patriarch ancestors lifted their heads in unison, the heads of the 3 mansions other than Li Manor. They were all aged figures, yet each a transcendent heavenly venerable. One of them, clad in a crimson robe, transformed into a streak of rainbow light, rising into the sky. Stopping 100 zhang away from Wang Lin, he clasped his fists and bowed. This old man wishes to be the first challenger. I ask the white-haired, transcendent, heavenly venerable for guidance. His eyes glimmered with eerie light. Before Wang Lin could answer, he sat cross-legged in midair, raising his right hand. Blue veins bulged across his body as wisps of black energy surged outward, condensing in an instant into a massive shadow. The shadow seemed clad in black armor, its face indistinct, eyes closed. Yet its appearance made the heavens and earth of the imperial palace tremble, winds and clouds spiraling chaotically. Wang Lin, grant me your instruction, the old man roared, biting his tongue to spit blood. The crimson mist entered the shadow, and under its stimulus, the shadow's eyes snapped open, glowing blood red. With a guttural roar, the shadow lifted its hand. A long black spear materialized, thrusting toward Wang Lin with terrifying speed. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. He didn't know the man, but from the placement among the royal clans, he could surmise he was one of the 4 great royal mansions. That shadow radiated overwhelming power. As it charged forward, the very sky seemed ready to split apart. Wang Lin did not retreat. Instead, the Tianyo soul armor instantly covered his body. His right hand clenched into a fist, and he struck forward. The blow landed the same instant the spear stabbed at him. The clash resounded with an earth-shattering roar. Wang Lin staggered slightly, withdrawing his fist, but the black shadow in front of him shattered violently, fragments scattering. The old man, still seated cross-legged, paled instantly. Yet gritting his teeth, he raised both hands and slammed them onto his forehead. In that strike, he sacrificed his own lifespan. A denser tide of black energy erupted from his body. With every wisp of it released, his appearance aged drastically, as though he had just crawled out of the grave. The surging darkness condensed once more, not only restoring the shadow but giving it tangible form. Beneath it, a warhorse took shape, neighing wildly as it carried the armored phantom toward Wang Lin. Behind the soul armor, Wang Lin's expression turned solemn. As the phantom descended upon him, he bent slightly backward, then lunged forward like a charging beast. Heavenly Bull Charge. At once, a colossal phantom of a heavenly ox appeared behind him. It roared at the heavens, its massive horns slamming directly into the shadow. Boom, 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 boom. The dark shadow, along with the warhorse beneath it, collapsed simultaneously, as if it could not withstand the force of the impact. It shattered suddenly, causing the shadow of the heavenly ox to penetrate through the disintegrating black aura, heading straight towards the state preceptor Shang Xiandao outside the hall of Immortal Dao. All of this seemed like a coincidence. As the heavenly ox roared and charged, state preceptor Shang Xuandao's expression remained unchanged. Without the slightest shift, he raised his right hand, as if performing a calculation, and pointed forward. At the moment his finger made contact with the incoming shadow of the heavenly ox, the shadow of the ox trembled violently. Nothing is a form of the great Tao. It exists, and after its loss, it is called nothing. State preceptor Shang Xiandao spoke slowly, and as his words faded, the shadow of the heavenly ox in front of him vanished into smoke. For it to exist, and then disappear, nothing. This scene aligned perfectly with his words. Wang Lin's pupils contracted sharply. In that brief moment, he had felt an incredibly terrifying fluctuation from the state preceptor. This fluctuation belonged to a profound understanding of the Tao, at an incredibly deep level. As the heavenly ox vanished, the black shadow, which had been formed from the old man's expended life force, disappeared as well. The old man, now hovering in mid-air with his legs crossed, appeared much older and more fragile. With a bitter expression, he stood and cupped his hands in salute towards Wang Lin, without speaking further. With a swift motion, he descended to the ground and returned to the cultivators of his family. The second challenger, the state preceptor, standing before the hall of Immortal Dao, smiled faintly and began to speak slowly. However, just as his words reached that point, his brows furrowed. Not only him, but Wang Lin also turned to look into the distance. Among the cultivators below, many immediately noticed the gaze, and, one by one, frowned. Humph, how daring of you all. Such a lively event, and you didn't invite this king? What, do you not see this king anymore? From beyond the gates of the imperial palace, a group of people appeared with the flash of a teleportation array. At the head of this group was a young man in a flower-patterned robe, holding a fan. His face was full of anger as he furiously waved his fan, causing his hair to flutter in the wind. Beside him stood Su Ligua, pale-faced and trembling, barely able to stand. The young man in green beside him was similarly pale and filled with terror. He grasped the young man in the flower-patterned robe by the arm, urgently speaking in a low, pleading tone. Your Highness, this is the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace, you say? I'm a prince, you servant. Get out of my way. The young man in the flower-patterned robe was displeased, shoving the green-clad youth forward. Little Red, bring out the imposing presence you had at the Li Manor. Don't tarnish my title, or I'll deal with you when I get back. The young man in the flower-patterned robe kicked Su Ligua in the back. Su Ligua, trembling, was immediately the focus of thousands of cultivators' eyes. With gritted teeth, he hurried a few steps, putting on a defiant expression, but then suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Clutching his injured backside, he twitched a few times and then collapsed, motionless. Huh? Dead. The young man in the flower-patterned robe froze for a moment, looking down at his foot in confusion. Wang Lin stood mid-air, silently watching the young man in the flower-patterned robe. His appearance had changed slightly, but Wang Lin immediately recognized him as a madman. The young man in the flower-patterned robe shook his fan, circling around Su Ligua's unmoving body a few times before kicking it a few more times. Humph, playing dead, huh? Dare to play dead in front of me? Let me tell you, I've encountered someone pretending to be dead before. Hey, who was it again? He mumbled to himself for a while, but couldn't remember, so he simply abandoned Su Ligua's body and strutted forward. As he passed by, every cultivator he encountered frowned and laughed bitterly, retreating to avoid him. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Your Highness. The sound of greetings continued as the young man in the flower-patterned robe strode forward. As he walked, he muttered to himself, "Why are there so many people today? Could my brother be selecting a consort? Hey, old Luo, what's happened to you? You look a lot older, like you've wilted." The young man stopped in front of the elderly man who had clashed with Wang Lin earlier, his eyes wide as he shouted, "Who dares to bully my grandfather, little Huahua? Damn it, I'm going to teach him a lesson. Old Luo, tell me, who did this to you? Tell me." The young man rolled up his sleeves, shaking his fan furiously as he shouted, "Was it him? It must have been him. I've always disliked this guy, acting so young even though he's so old. It's you, isn't it? I'm going to strangle you." Pointing at the state preceptor, who was frowning in front of the Hall of Immortal Tao, the young man hurried a few steps forward, seeming intent on strangling him. Just as he was about to charge, the young man in green, who had been following closely behind, suddenly grabbed his leg, preventing him from moving forward. Your Highness, he's the National Master. Your Highness, let's go back." The young boy's face turned deathly pale. No matter how many times the youth in the floral robe kicked at him, he refused to let go. He bullied Grandpa Xiaohua. How could I possibly spare him? You wretched servant, won't let go? Fine, I'll take you with me. The floral-robed youth snapped his fan open again, waving it furiously as he dragged the boy along, his expression twisted with menace. His intent was clear. He meant to strangle the National Master no matter what. Hovering in midair, Wang Lin watched the madman below. His expression shifted with silent complexity. He had come to this ancestral city for one purpose, to see if this old friend of his past life could still recognize him. He watched as that man fanned himself relentlessly, dragging the boy who pleaded without end. Step by step, they approached the Hall of Immortal Paths. In the distance, Su Ligua still lay sprawled on the ground, yet his eyes snapped open for a fleeting glance at the floral-robed youth, only to squeeze shut again without hesitation. Dao Fei, just as the floral-robed youth hauled the green-clad boy up to the National Master, baring his teeth with feral intent and raising both hands to seize his throat, a weary voice drifted out from within the Hall of Immortal Paths. It was the Immortal Emperor. "What are you doing? You went and chose concubines without even telling me. You've gone too far." The floral-robed youth glared viciously toward the Immortal Emperor seated on the dragon throne inside the hall. "Dao Fei, stop causing trouble. Today is the enthronement ceremony of your benefactor. You've seen him. Why not pay him your respects?" The Immortal Emperor's words carried a calm cadence, and with them spread a gentle force that pushed the madman back dozens of feet away from the National Master. "Benefactor." The floral-robed youth froze, momentarily stunned.